You're listening to HackFit Highlights, cybersecurity stories you can understand in 15 minutes. Hi, I'm Jenny, and I represent CMIT Solutions of Southwest Jax, a local IT managed services provider for small to mid-sized businesses in and around Southwest Jax. Welcome to our channel. Let's not reinvent the wheel. Today's workout is brought to you by Derby.com. It's an amazing free resource loaded with tons of workouts and tools to help you get started on your fitness journey. This site only runs on donations. Otherwise, you pay nothing. Are we in a cyber war? Well, no nation has actively declared war and directly threatened the U.S. as a nation, but we may be seeing the signs of an unspoken war, like another digital Cold War. I'm not here to talk conspiracy theories around economics and global politics. I'm going to talk about BRICS only to paint the big picture of cyber threats, cyber policies, and hopefully help you answer the question on your own: what is a cyber war, and are we in one? Back in 2001, Chief of Economics of Goldman Sachs, Jim O'Neill, predicted that these national powers with similar economic demographic would be the economic superpowers within 40 years. BRICS stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and more recently, South Africa. What do these nations have in common? Large populations, recent economic growth, and rich in natural resources. One more critical fundamental thing that BRICS nations have in common is that they disagree with the G7 nations, which includes the US, regarding cyber policies and defining government responsibilities and jurisdictions within the cyber domain. The most basic example: freedom of the press and freedom of speech. BRICS nations want to restrict what the US holds sacred in our Constitution, and this carries over into cyber policies and internet freedoms. This means that cybercrime is not clearly defined as, say, a traffic violation or premeditated murder. It's very gray, and it differs from country to country. For example, countries cannot agree on how to put someone or their entire country on trial for using a cyber attack to intentionally shut down an entire digital network, like what happened during the famous attack on Estonia back in 2007. Which was considered the first attempt at sabotaging an entire nation-state with cyber warfare. It's a bit of a sidebar, but this is incredibly relevant and will paint a picture about what is possible right here at home in the US. Estonia is a northern European country the size of New Hampshire that lost power and all digital connectivity for 3 whole weeks, 22 days to be exact. The damage was considered virtual, psychological, and physical. No one was able to access their money and bank accounts during this time. Businesses could not access basic websites and cloud applications they needed to operate, like email, POS systems, and client storage files. The public lost a lot of faith in their government's capabilities to protect them, the same way any of us would lose faith in the safety of a neighborhood experiencing high crime rates. Communication on what was going on and what resolutions were coming together were hard to push out since the communications relied on the now compromised media networks. In fact, the media was very likely directly targeted for this reason. And instead of listing out everything that was compromised, it's easier to say targeting many parts of Estonia's critical infrastructure qualified as a nation-state shutdown. The method of attack was a distributed denial of service, also known as a DDoS attack. This led to the total cyber shutdown in April 2007. Denial of service attacks occur when a target network is flooded with internet traffic to overwhelm the network's bandwidth and resources to the point of shutdown. A distributed denial of service is when this attack is executed using a number of widespread networks and computers. Video gamers who play online international platform games are probably pretty familiar with what an accidental DDoS looks like when there's a new release on a game and everyone is trying to log in at the same time. No one's getting in, or the queues are hours long. Some cybersecurity professionals will trivialize DDoS attacks as superficial or short-lived, but there's plenty of evidence to call out that they're worth noticing. At best, they're a warning of more to come. At worst, they give your threat actors insight on your cyber response capabilities and weaknesses. Due to the nature of this highly diversified DDoS attack, Estonia had their suspicions on whodunit, but it was difficult to track and impossible to persecute. Cyber attacks offer a lot of anonymity. Tools like proxy servers and virtual machines allow threat actors to mimic services and traffic from anywhere in the world, very much like how anyone has the capability to create a Gmail account and enter their name into an online raffle to win a trip to Hawaii 100 times. What would it take for the same thing to happen to the US? Something as simple as taking out a couple of transformers with a bad storm. According to energy professionals, our dependence on the U.S. electrical grid has contributed to a lack of sufficient updates and upkeep and would cost trillions of dollars to replace and/or upgrade. This is similar to how software updates and patches require systems to be down short-term, but the maintenance saves a lot of money long-term and over time. So the question for us all remains, if the power went out indefinitely tomorrow, are we prepared to continue operations in any way to sustain our lives or our businesses? Cyber threats and attacks stem from a unique foundation: ease of access. Remember how we talked about Citrix applications and remote access into another computer can happen from the comfort of your own home? All that's needed is a computer, internet access, a power source, and a talented person. From anywhere in the world, hackers can freely automate searches across the entire global cyber domain for vulnerabilities to exploit, very much like the Citrix one you heard about in the first episode. A highly sophisticated hacker could appear to look like an international team of computer operators searching for openings in global interconnected networks, both big and small. In fact, smaller networks are more targeted because they historically get far less monitoring and regularly updated protections. Where the US is weak in its cyber defense, BRICS nations are strong. They have far more resources than we do when it comes to the manpower requirement. A large population is what addresses this. You can think of it this way. For every one computer genius in the US, there may be 10 per BRICS nation. And while the US and other G7 nations are way ahead in terms of technological advancements, BRICS is catching up thanks to funding from their rapid economic growth over the last 20 years. Well, that's all for today. I hope you learned more about the big scale picture of the cyber domain and where it stands as of 2024. Moving forward, we're going to stay a little closer to home for the rest of this podcast. Next episode, we're going to talk about that time people started trying to fill plastic grocery bags with gasoline and the cyber event that led to this. I'm Jenny with CMIT Solutions in Jacksonville, Florida. If you want to learn more, follow us on Twitter at CMITSWJax. Thanks for listening, and I hope this was helpful.